Hello, and thank you for joining us here at Finovate Fall 2022 in New York City. I'm David Penn, Research Analyst with Finovate. And joining me is Ron Rock. He's the Senior Director of Insurance and Insurtech with JobsOhio. Thanks for joining us, Ron.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I think to start off, maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do for JobsOhio.
Yeah, I'm obviously a Senior Director of a sector team at JobsOhio. We have 9 of them, so there's 8 other people out there doing what I'm doing here.
Okay.
I've tried to make my rounds on the insurance side, but now I'm stretching a little bit into the banking and payments. First time at Finovate, so I'm excited about it. Not first time at the Marquee, but so I'm pretty used to this venue. But what I try to do at our core is economic development. We're bringing companies to the state, also growing the companies within the state. So I'm here just perusing the innovation that's out there, seeing if there's partnerships that we can make with the companies and hopefully expand our ecosystem in the state.
So over the past couple of years, there's been quite a bit of tribulations for those of us in financial services. COVID, economic uncertainty with inflation and the possibility of recession. I'm curious how that might have impacted some of the companies you work with in terms of the Insurtech and the insurance side of things.
Yeah, it's interesting. Financial services, it seems like we have the ability to be remote. We're not a build a building, fill it full of people kind of industry. So being able to work remote is very easy in the financial services space, especially when you're stretching into some of the tech strategies that we have. So it does challenge us a little bit where if I'm trying to recruit companies, they don't necessarily want to have a strong presence in the state, but what we're trying to do is highlight the amount of talent that is coming out of our universities, coming out of other organizations within Ohio. Also on the other side, banking and some insurance companies are kind of quick to get people back into the office. They love the camaraderie, they love the collaboration. So I think we're making that shift, but trying to dip a toe a little bit because you don't want to upset the apple cart when it comes to the talent that's out there. You want to retain the good talent. So we're at JobsOhio, we're just very cognizant of all of that and making sure that we're setting the organization up to support in any way that we possibly can.
Sure. I'm curious in some of your conversations with companies and with entrepreneurs, if you're sort of sensing any sort of shift in the conversation from this idea that one has to be in Silicon Valley, one has to be in New York, to a more openness to be in places where there are some thriving innovation hubs, but maybe not in the sort of areas where people expect them to always be.
Yeah, that's another thing that we've kind of shifted to is we noticed that, we were aware of that. So we decided we want to fund 3 different innovation centers in the state. We have one in Cincinnati, one in Columbus, and one in Cleveland that are being developed right now. There's a lot of collaboration on the healthcare space in this true IT space. So when it comes to the financial services space, we think that being close to that innovation is very key. So what I'm trying to do is help recruit some of those companies to utilize those innovation centers. Get close to that innovation because basically, I know it's kind of corny, but innovation breeds innovation.
Absolutely.
And programming, developing, all of that stuff, even depending on what industry it is, it's all the same. And sometimes when you get into the financial services space, if you can get close to some of that knowledge base, which we have a strong knowledge base of that in Ohio, it's just a good mix.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'd like to talk a little bit more about Ohio, and I think just hearing you talk about the innovation centers, I think helps people bring to mind Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus, big cities. They've got a lot of things going on in terms of universities, industry, things like that. I'm wondering if maybe you could highlight some of the things about Ohio that do make it sort of an ideal place for a lot of entrepreneurs to start their businesses.
Yeah, I always say it, the people are great because we're Midwest, we're very driven to get things done, but we're also not, so ate up with the business. We're just a nice group of people. At the same time, we've got a great spot in the United States where it's not truly, the weather isn't as harsh as it is in some places with hurricanes and maybe tornadoes and blizzards and stuff. I mean, we have it, but it's still not very, extreme.
Right.
But what you do have, especially in the financial services space, is you're close to about 2/3 of the financial services sector in Ohio. So within a day's travel, you can be anywhere that you want to be with the financial services ecosystem in the Midwest. And then, of course, just a few hours to the coasts. But also, the other thing we're trying to do is, highlight with our venture capitalists that Fintech and Insurtech is a space that is going to provide some really good ROI. So we've got a lot of venture capital in the state. If we're thinking about venture capital, you typically think of Silicon Valley
Absolutely.
or New York, but we're trying to get really strong in the state of Ohio as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You even think just geographically where Ohio is located, if you're coming out of New York, you're coming out of the Mid-Atlantic region, even out of the South, very, very easy to get to Ohio, to say nothing of folks who live in the area, the St. Louis area, that sort of middle part of the country, and really not that far of a jump from a Denver as well. So it's a really interestingly located place for people to be as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it took me an hour to get here.
There you go. Perfect. An hour to New York is not
Not
bad.
bad.
Exactly. I thought maybe by wrapping up, we could talk a little bit more about Insurtech and the insurance business, particularly sort of looking forward and some of the things we can expect. We're hearing so much at conferences like these about data, the power of data. We're hearing things like automation and things like that. And I can't help but imagine that a lot of these sorts of enabling technologies are exactly the kind of things that are going to help take insurance and Insurtech really to a new level of service, both for consumers as well as for those companies that are trying to provide these services and products.
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many trends out there, and I'm combing the landscape with all different companies that are doing things like embedded, using AI, using data analytics, just to personalize the experience.
Absolutely.
I think from a customer standpoint, I think the customer is in the driver's seat here. The companies are going to have to basically adhere to or adapt to the customer and meet them when and where they want to be met, instead of vice versa. And I think when it comes to processes at those companies and making sure that you do things faster, less expensive, keeping your loss ratios down, keeping your expense ratios down, it's going to be key to have those partnerships with the tech companies out there, the startup companies that have those solutions, and keep that company not just growing, but also sometimes relevant. Because if you're not pursuing some type of Insurtech or Fintech, you're going to be behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, really, really interesting stuff, both in terms of the actual insurance companies themselves, the whole rise of embedded finance. We have a different sort of companies starting to try to offer insurance products and services that are maybe not part of the traditional offering set. A really, really fascinating space, and really thank you for coming by and talking to us a little bit about it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
and thank
it.
you for joining us as well.